Much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. More people continue to flock to Charlotte. By 2050, our population is expected to grow by 83%. Right now, the city has a shortage of affordable rental housing. As the population swells, experts say it will be more than double the current shortfall. Carolina Impact's Tanisha Johnson shows us what affordable housing looks like. I think it might surprise you.
When you drive through Charlotte, you'll see one construction project after another. Signs advertising studios, one-bedroom and two-bedroom apartments may lead you to think there's no shortage of housing. But not everyone can afford the steep prices in Charlotte while living the American dream. As a massage therapist, 25-year-old Tiffany Huntley enjoys helping clients feel relaxed. She works long hours and holds another part-time job to make ends meet, but she still struggles to get ahead.
I wasn't making very good money, and I went to one of my guy friends and I was telling him about it, like I just didn't know what to do. You know, I'm trying to find a place for me to live and that I can afford.
That's why she was glad when he told her about the vistas at 707.
He was like, well, we're working on this new income-based housing unit in Plaza Midwood. You know, it's gonna be very safe, secure, you know, new, great amenities.
The vistas opened last November and offers affordable living based on someone's income. When Tiffany visited the apartment community and saw the great lounge, pool, and fitness area, she was surprised.
This is too good to be true. There's no way that this is going to be something that, number one, I can afford.
With nearly 200 units, the community is close to local restaurants and public transportation. There's even a place for residents to walk their dog or bike. Tiffany moved to this new two-bedroom apartment here at the Vistas a short time ago. Even her parents were surprised that the affordable living communities like this exist.
It's changed their perspective because they realize that it's not everyone that's living off the system or, you know, taking advantage of certain opportunities. It's people that are trying to do better for their futures.
If you've picked up an apartment guide lately, you might have been a little sticker shock once you open the pages. On average, rent here in Charlotte is $1,169. The problem? A little over 49% of households can't afford it. That's because a person needs to be making at least $50,000 to do so, hence the need to provide affordable housing for a growing population. Most people are familiar with low-income housing where residents pay only a small amount each month. But with affordable housing, residents pay about 35% of their monthly earnings. So a person who makes $1,958 per month pays a little less than $700 for a one- or two-bedroom apartment. Local housing experts say 34,000 affordable rental units are needed in Charlotte, but only 800 are slated to be built. As president of the Charlotte Housing Authority, Fulton Meacham says building affordable housing options can be challenging because of people's misconceptions.
Does affordable housing lower property values? That answer is no. Does it create crime in your community? The answer to that is no.
In reality, Meacham says communities like the Vistas at 707 demonstrate that people with various income levels can benefit from each other by living in the same neighborhood.
Daddy, don't press Daddy, press me.
Following the recession in 2008, Mike Davis struggled to get back on his feet. After moving into the Vistas, he says living here has made his kids feel more secure about their future, giving them
just feeling a comfort of, okay, Dad is getting back on track. He's doing what he's supposed to. You know, everything is fine now. We can breathe a little bit easier and then moving towards that, better situation.
And this is the brakes.
Gotcha, let's do it.
Mike enjoys spending time with his boys, and he never would have imagined being able to live in an apartment like this so close to uptown Charlotte.
It's not cheap living, it's affordable, so it's not like it's your golden ticket. You still gotta earn it, and you still have to pay for it.
I think that's what affordable housing is at the end of the day. It's an opportunity for individuals that may not be on the top rung economically but they're really trying to get there.
And by helping people like Mike and Tiffany get there by offering affordable housing options, it allows them more income to get the basic necessities. For Carolina Impact, I'm Tanisha Johnson reporting.
Thanks so much, Tanisha. Joining me now is Pamela Weidman, Deputy Director of the City of Charlotte's Neighborhood and Business Services Program. Pam, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
I learned so much in these stories. And so we just want to talk a little bit more and help people understand. So many times we've heard the difference between low-income housing and that public housing concept. Help people understand the difference or that there really isn't a difference these days.
Yeah, so what I like to tell people is we think of it as affordable housing. Many years ago, there was this concept of public housing where all very poor people were concentrated in one building. We realized over time that that is just not a good experience. It's not good for the people, and it's also not good for the operators of those developments. So today, what's built is mixed income affordable housing. So you have households with different incomes living in quality built affordable housing. And when we say affordable housing, we're really talking about the percentage of your income. By rule of thumb, no one should pay more than 30% of their annual income for housing.
And so we saw in that story that the average rate for an apartment in the Charlotte area is just over $1,000 a month. And so to be able to have that be 30% of your income, you've got to be making about $50,000 a year. And that rules out a whole lot of job sectors.
That's exactly right.
Help us understand, what are those job sectors, some of those sectors? That these are real working people who just can't afford those kind of apartment rents.
Sure. So people in need of affordable housing, people often ask the question, who needs it? So generally, we're thinking about laborers. We're thinking about the retail industry, folks working at Best Buy. We're thinking about health aides, entry-level educators, some entry-level first responders like police and fire, and veterans. Many returning veterans need affordable housing.
So, but what we saw in that story was not like any affordable housing I had ever seen before. Swimming pools, fitness centers. I mean, that really kind of shatters that old image of people not wanting it in their neighborhood.
Right, so you're referring to two things. One, what's built today, quality affordable housing. It's looks a lot like market rate housing. You can't tell the difference, and we really stress that in this community. We don't want you to be able to drive through a neighborhood and say that's the affordable housing and that's the market rate housing. So they do have business centers, computer rooms. Many of them have swimming pools, and because of the way it's financed through the state, that they have many more stricter requirements than a market rate developer does. Some of those are the size of the rooms have to be bigger, the developments have to have a storage unit, and many market rate developers don't have to include that in their units.
So talk to us about the market in our area. We are seeing a boom in construction. We saw in the story there's about 12,000 apartments under construction, but less than 800 of them fall in that affordable housing rate. Why do people not really want to build the affordable housing? Is there not, from a developer's standpoint, is there not the financial return? And how do we justify and encourage more people to build apartments that fall in that affordable housing category?
Sure, you're right. Charlotte is experiencing one of its greatest booms. You know, there is a business model where people can do affordable housing within a for-profit company. It's not as profitable, but I definitely know of business models where it can be done. And so I like to think of it as you can have a business model where you can do good by doing well. You asked earlier about the NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And so I think it would help for people to understand who lives in affordable housing, who needs it. Again, they're working families. They just might not be earning that wage that is over $50,000, but they are working families and not a disruption to the community as many people think.
And there are some states that require all developers to set aside, if they're going to build an apartment complex with 200 units, 10% of them have to fall in the affordable housing. So they have to have lower rents for those. What are some of those states, and what does it take to sort of make that happen so that we can get folks the housing that they need?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about, Amy, is a tool called mandatory inclusionary zoning. We don't have that here in the state of North Carolina. We believe that we need enabling legislation in order to use that tool. But states like Maryland have mandatory inclusionary zoning, and so what that means is they have to developers have to set aside at least 10% of the housing units for families who need affordable housing. Another state, unlike Charlotte, but New York, they have mandatory inclusionary zoning. So those are just two to come to mind immediately.
So how do we fix the problem here? And we're running out of time.
Sure. Well, it's a community effort. The City of Charlotte certainly has a local funding source called the Housing Trust Fund. So you spoke earlier about those 800 units. Those units have been funded through the trust fund. That trust fund is funded through voter-approved bonds every year. But it's not just a City of Charlotte problem. It's a community problem. So we need to continue to get the faith community involved, the philanthropic community involved. We also need to get other public agencies who own land, like the school system and Mecklenburg County, involved. Again, it has to be a community-wide solution.
So teamwork makes the dream work. Pamela Weidman, thank you so much. You're Deputy Director of the Neighborhood and Business Services Program for the City of Charlotte. We appreciate your information and shedding some light on this important issue.
Thank you for having me.
Next, I want you to think about a defining moment from high school. For me, it was starring as Daisy Mae my senior year in our school's version of Little Abner. I know you're laughing right now at that picture, but I grew up in a small town in Ohio and had to make all my own costumes for the show. Being in high school theater taught me how to work with teams, meet deadlines, and get over my fear of public speaking, and helped me conquer my speech impediment. I couldn't pronounce my R's. Well, tonight, we want to spotlight two